Hello world, my name is Clyde Fernandez and I lead an amazing platform team in Australia. When I think about transformations, they begin and end with people.
For me, I think innovation is a process. It's a process of converting ideas into instantiation of solutions. So trustless environments, like this thing called blockchain. So all of these new technologies are coming along. But the quote I will use, being the child of freedom and the parent of prosperity. And what that means is, to innovate, you've really got to have a safe environment where you can actually have ideas. And for me, everything's about finding a solution to something.
Clyde, thanks a lot for coming on the Proof of Work podcast. I've known you for a couple of years now. We met through our common friend, Carl. Shout out to Carl, great guy. And we became very close friends. And you also became, I would say, a role model for me as well. We both have somewhat of a similar journey. You're an Indian Australian, I'm an Indian Australian. So to understand a lot of the cultural nuances, fitting in as a third culture identity individual in Australia, learned a lot from you over the years. So a very warm welcome to the Proof of Work podcast. And I really thank you for taking out the time to do this with me.
Brother, the honour's all mine. I feel very humbled to be invited into your room, into your podcast. I've really enjoyed our conversations. I've enjoyed all of them, and I'd say that we're not. You and I are very similar in terms of from India. Go to a second country, go to a third country. We've been to 3 countries.
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
Your education was in the States, right? So
yeah.
So you think about that. For me as well, my early education was in England. From India, beautiful state of Kerala, God's own country. You know, what's one of the common statements about Kerala? Everyone says it to me. Oh, very smart people, 100% literacy rate.
Yes.
Yep. So moving from Kerala, beautiful tropical idyllic lifestyle as a young kid, and moving and getting dropped into London, England, in the middle of winter, it was a contrast.
Yeah.
It was a shock to the system. But you know, I think about that now. All of those changes, and then eventually in my mid-teens, being relocated to immigrating into Australia. All of those changes actually, and same with you, I think it's what forms us, and it's what gives us the resiliency to get through life. You're a lot younger than me. I'm a lot more mature than you. I think I could be your father in terms of age. But all those experiences help us actually work through, and not only just try and survive through issues, but actually thrive through them. So I feel very honored to be on your podcast. I feel very humbled that you'd even want to talk to me.
Of course, sir. Look, thank you very much. Very kind words from you. The honor and pleasure is all mine, Clyde. Thank you. Clyde, now we've discussed a little bit and you touched upon it. You have such a fascinating background and such a fascinating story to talk about as well. One day, we hopefully are going to see an autobiography and read about it one day. But until then, let this be your platform and this, 60, 80 minutes to be the guide of Clyde's story. So walk us through your origin story, like paint a picture of your upbringing and what shaped you into the leader you are today.
Wow, big question. I think fundamentally it's about life experiences. That if you're really honest about it, and if you let go of all of the academics and the learnt behaviors, fundamentally, you are who you are by about 7 years old. I think it's been well proven now that, what's that saying, show me a boy at 7 and you'll see the man. Gender neutrality. So I think I've always been the middle child, right? So born into a family of 5 children. I was the middle child in that. So I had an elder sister, have an elder brother, had a younger sister and a younger brother, and obviously amazing parents who literally demonstrated the personification of courage, which was moving away from everything you know and love and moving into a whole new realm Why? Not for the betterment of yourself, but for the betterment of your family, for the betterment of someone outside of yourself. So that forms something in you, that sets you up. And I think all the different experience I've had, from being a young kid running around half naked in the compound in Vaipin in Kerala, chasing chickens with my brother for dinner, all the way through to dealing with racism and other isms in England and in Australia, and learning how to deal with those things, and learning that you can't avoid them. So what you've got to do is work either through them, over them, under them, around them. But ultimately, you've got to engage. You've got to engage with people, because that's ultimately what matters in the world. Because I think the science. The most important thing you need to do is breathe. The second most important thing you need to do is sleep. The third most important thing you do is probably food and water. And then we've got connections. So we need all of those things. Obviously, breathing and sleeping, hopefully you've got down pat. But if you don't have the other two categories of nutrition and connection, it becomes a very lonely existence. So I think all the changes that happen in life, you can either look at it, and I remember talking to a friend of mine who said, "Hey, Clyde, you guys have moved around a lot since we got married. We moved around a lot. I think in the last camp we've had 24 homes since Bridget and I have been together.
Got it.
The boys have literally grew up in, I'm going to say, half a dozen, and then since the boys were getting to teenage and adulthood, we've moved a lot of times, right? Including moving back to London, and then back to Melbourne, then Sydney, then Melbourne. So we are pretty nomadic, and I think all the experiences from youth helps us to be very, very capable and adept at managing, not just managing, but actually thriving in change. And I think those things lend itself to good leadership, because leadership there's no book on it. There's a lot of books on it, but my reality is meet people where they are, do the work, which means find out where they're at, meet them where they are, don't overstep it. And I'll talk a bit about my latest example of not doing that well later on in my new job, which I started just over 3 months ago. But be yourself, be authentic to yourself, and be honest and lead with your values and your strength, because there's the what of work and there's the how of work. And the what, we can all do that, right? Hitting certain KPIs. How you do it matters though. And how you do it is a reflection of what your values are. And I suggest your energy level. And I think you and I have spoken about it before, about me feeling like, we're all basically energy bundles and we exchange energy.
Yes.
The theory, energy can't be created or destroyed. It can only be changed. So I think of myself as an energy source. I can either be an energy black hole or I can be a source of energy, right?
Yes.
So I want to be a leader which is a source of energy that can inspire, motivate, coach individuals through their journey. And that's not just work, but their genuine life journey, to help them become the leaders within.
Yes.
And quite often people think about leadership as being someone who has people reporting them. I don't think so. I think there's an art of self-leadership first.
Yes.
And if you don't nail that to a reasonable level, it's pretty difficult to do that for others, right? You've got to model what you want from others. And some of the best and worst leaders are those who model well, are very humble, are almost servant leaders. I think you've heard that term before.
Yes.
And then you've got the opposite, right? Where it's all about them, their objectives, their priorities. And I've got to tell you, I've done both of those.
Sure.
And I'm happy to explore both of those scenarios.
Got it. Yeah, that's amazing. Just going back a little bit, Clyde, when did you move to Australia? Like, was it in the 70s or 80s?
So moved from India to England in 69, moved from England to Sydney in 76.
76. So you were one of the first, I guess, brown families would have moved in Australia, because Australia had the white Australia policy before the 70s. So brown people were not even allowed in Australia at that time.
True. Here's my recollection. I came to Australia for a holiday. So we were, my family of origin, we had very humble existence. Dad and mum had to work to keep a roof over her head, but pretty much working class. My mother, rest in peace, was an amazing human being. She was a nurse, but I think every hospital she worked at, she ended up being the matron of those hospitals, both in England and in Australia, and actually in India as well. They did everything they could to actually help us, right? So I remember I came with my mother, even though we were very poor. My father worked for an airline. It was called Olympic Airways.
Oh,
I'm
really?
not sure if they're still going on.
I've never heard of this Australian airline.
It wasn't Australian. It was Olympic Airways, which was a Greek airline.
Got it.
As in Olympics.
Sure.
Olympia.
Oh, sure.
And he worked as a telex operator. Now, telex, for those of you who don't know, is pre-email, pre-internet. It's literally people on a keyboard typing out telex paper, which is a thin piece of paper. It would then get sent all over the place and get shipped to a telecommunications transmitter, and the message would get received elsewhere. So that was him. So he was in what I'd call early comms, right? He was in communications, but he didn't even know it, right?
Yeah.
But it was a humble clerical job. The one benefit of his job was he got 2 free tickets, airline tickets, to anywhere in the world.
Got it.
Right? So now think about this, right? Paint this picture. We're living in this tiny little house, like 2 up, 2 down house in a place by then called Gillingham in Kent. Pretty much very working class in what's called an estate. It almost looks like a council estate.
Sure.
So we knew we were poor. But every year, one of the kids would go with mum or dad to somewhere. Now, the somewhere was always Australia, because by the time we moved to England, in fact, by the time my father got that job at Olympic Airways, a lot of his family moved to Australia.
Got it.
So for 3 years, we were traveling between England and Australia. In 1974 was my turn, and I went with my mum, and I visited Sydney, and my father was the eldest of 10 children. Okay, so he was the grand poobah of his family, and you know Indian culture, right?
Yeah.
Very hierarchical, very patriarchal, right? So what he said goes, right? So, and every one of his younger brothers and sisters, if it was, and by the way, I'm Clyde Junior, he was Clyde Senior, my father. So I have his name. That's about where the similarities, I think, finish. Sure. Although there's another story on that. All of his family would actually, treat us like royalty, right? So even though we're all working class, when we used to fly into Sydney, Dad's family would take us and give us an amazing time. And I remember distinctly a time when I went to the drive-in with my mum and I think it was my younger uncles and aunties. And we went to the drive-in. Now, this is in the summer, I think it was summer in 1974. So it's beautiful and warm. I couldn't understand how I could just walk around. And going back to this issue of racism, I did not experience any racism. Now, I was experiencing a lot of racism in London at the time. Okay. So it was a big contrast. And I remember a couple of things. One is my uncle giving me money and saying, go and buy whatever you want. And we did not have money like that. Like we just didn't have money, right? So getting this, like he'd give me a dollar note. Now, a dollar was a lot of money back in 74.
Exactly.
And he said, go to the shop and buy whatever you like. And we're in the drive-in, so I'd go and buy hamburgers and this and that. And I kept eating these hamburgers, right? And everybody would all the kids were all in a playground. And this is for me, a pivotal moment. I went to this playground, and I contrasted that playground to a playground in England when I first got to London. And I remember approaching the children in this playground in London, and asking in obviously a very strong Indian accent, can I play, right? And remembering their absolute horror, right, and almost disgust at like what makes you think you could possibly play with us. Fast forward from around, that would have been about 71. Fast forward to 74. I'm in Australia. I walk up to this playground, and I say the same thing, and the response was, "Yeah, mate, come and play."
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. And I went, "Wow."
Yeah.
I wonder if it's because it's getting dark. They can't see that I'm a dark person. I wonder if that's why they're letting me play. But it was a genuine inclusion. Now, don't get me wrong. Was there racism in Australia? Of course there was. But it wasn't. I didn't see it.
Yeah.
Like I did in England. Maybe it was to do with location. You and I both know socio-demographics do drive. Well, the more educated you are, the more likely you are to understand similarities rather than differences.
Exactly.
So I, as an adult now, I recognize all that. I can see it for what it is. And so to your point, your earlier question, I didn't recognize racism. I didn't experience it in Australia until after we moved here, and we had a couple of examples, right? Sure. And there are locations where it's more prominent than other locations.
Sure.
And I would hazard to guess even today. But I got to tell you, as a brown guy, we are growing in prominence, especially in Melbourne and Sydney. Like, we are the new wave, right? And it's no longer, and I've experienced it in this new job I've just joined, it's no longer an issue that, it's no longer acceptable, that you can't pronounce someone's name of origin. It's no longer required that, Shiv's got to change his name to Steve.
Yeah.
To make it easier for the local inhabitants. No longer required. In fact, people are going, no, help me pronounce your name correctly.
Sure.
I want to understand more about you. So that is a big revelation, right?
Yeah.
Now, today in 2023, we've got another big constitutional conversation going on in this country.
I know.
It's called a voice.
Yes.
Right. Now, people, and in my own company, and it's fantastic because I joined this company just over 3 months ago. I was asked to join and become the executive. ServiceNow, that's correct. Yes. So I was talking to someone just before this call, a good buddy of mine, who both of us used to work at Salesforce. And I was saying to him, he goes, have you had lots of jobs? I said, I've had 3 jobs in 25 years. But one of those jobs I've only had for 3 months. So literally I've had 2 jobs in 25 years. So that's who I am, right? That says a lot about who I am.
Right.
So I joined ServiceNow on the 1st of May this year. Amazing company. And within, I think, 7 days, I was in a leadership meeting and we were talking about our 5-star mission and our 5 Southern Star initiatives. 5-star mission is our company priorities, and the 5 Southern Star initiatives are our local initiatives to drive community inclusion, whatever that might be. One of those programs was the RAP. It's called the Reconciliation Action Program. It's a formalized way of companies or organizations to acknowledge Indigenous, First Nations people.
Okay.
And the idea is to acknowledge them and actually build a program of work within your organization to increase awareness, increase education, enablement of your people, and then you go up the ranks of these RAPs. There are 4 levels of RAPs. We've come in at the entry level. I was just happily fortunate that the previous exec sponsor had left at the beginning of the year, and they had a vacant spot. And the MD of ServiceNow in Australia, New Zealand said, Clyde, would you want to put your hand up for that? I said, sure. And the great news was, within short order, we got the entire company to endorse the Yes campaign, right? So
amazing.
Huge achievement. Now, why am I mentioning all that? Because within the company, that's the company view. Yes. One thing we talk about a lot is companies will make statements, but individuals have a right to voice their own opinion. because we all have an individual vote. So the job of myself and the entire RAP committee is to just educate and enable and create safe spaces for all voices. And we've already had a couple of voices which said, hey, be careful about, uncomfortable, keep making this public and a few other things. And our job is to actually help people on the journey, to educate them as much as we can, as much as they're willing to accept or receive. And then it's up to them. That's the beauty of our democracy, right? It's the beauty of our constitution.
Yes.
So this is a huge turning point in our country.
Yeah.
Some people are talking about it. It's a political referendum. Yeah. I don't think it's political. Do I think it's politicized? Yes. Yes, it's politicized.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, I'm a very pro yes voter. So the reason why you would politicize it is, thank you. And the reason why you politicize it is because human nature will tell you, right? To change is pain. Change makes more effort. Creation takes more effort.
Yes.
Than staying homeostasis, right?
Sure.
So it's easier to call out fear, uncertainty, and doubt.
Yeah.
Than leaning in deeply.
Yeah.
And being really open to what's being said. This is not a political issue. This is an issue for ethical rights.
Yes.
That's what it is. It's for giving people the opportunity to feel like they've got a voice.
Yes.
That's it. And the people that matter probably the most in our continent, in our island continent, which is the First Nations peoples, right?
I agree with
who have been sitting and living and suffering under
I agree.
Pretty tough colonialization.
I agree with that. But I think what you said is spot on. Firstly, going back to what you said about not experiencing racism in Australia in certain places. So I've always stayed in metro cities in Australia, Brisbane, Gold Coast, Sydney. These three are the only places that I've lived in Australia. And I have to tell you that whenever I used to come for holidays back in India, and people used to say, oh, we hear news that, Australia is a very hostile environment for non-Australians. I used to tell them that I don't think so, because I have never experienced racism. Sure, there are certain occasions when there is a certain level of awkwardness, but that is fine. It's not like in-your-face racism. It's just that in certain environments, there are a certain group of people that might not like you because of certain differences that we might perceive as because we're not originally from Australia, like we're not from the British clan. But I have never experienced racism firsthand as well in Australia. And so I agree with you there. And it's so good to hear from you as well that was something similar experience that you witnessed in the 70s. And that is something that I also say to people when I meet outside Australia, that this image of Australia, that they extrapolate Australia's culture of being blunt and straightforward as being racist, is not true, because I felt very assimilated right from the start when I lived in Brisbane initially, and then when I moved to Sydney. I felt like very assimilated and part of Australian. And that's why I tell people that I'm very proud of my Indian ethnic roots, but I'm equally as proud of being Australian, because I am what I am because of Australia, and that can never be taken away from me. And I lived my entire adult life in Australia. So the man that I am just now is because of Australia, Australia's people. And I totally agree with you. That whole motto of Australia, which is to give people a fair go, is so part of the Australian ethos. And your point about the name, I'll tell you a funny story. So my name is Shiv. You know the meaning of Shiv from a Hindu mythological context. It's one of the Hindu gods. But in Australia, people who are not familiar with the Hindu mythology, they always used to think, oh, this guy's pretty rad. Like in the college, people always used to say, this guy's pretty rad, don't mess with him because his name is Shiv. And Shiv is that prison knife. So people were always curious about, they didn't used to make fun. Instead, they used to be curious, and they used to put a positive spin to it.
Yeah.
So I was also very lucky in that I didn't experience racism there. And I think that's part of the Australian culture. Having said that, just quickly, I think you raised a good point about what's happening in the country at the moment, and I'm following that very closely. I remember in 2008, when I started my undergrad, Kevin Rudd, the prime minister of that time, apologized. And I thought that was such an important moment for the country. And I was proud of that moment, being an Australian, that the head of the state has actually gone ahead and apologized. The job's not done by any means just by apologizing, but at least that's a big statement that the head of the state has gone ahead and apologized to the First Nations people that, hey, we did something wrong, something that the ancestors, the colonized Australia, did wrong. But for example, we don't see that with, let's say, England doing that to a lot of the colonies. For that matter, if Australia did that, I thought that was a big testament about the Australian culture. And similarly, now that the voice is happening, and yes, it has been politicized, but I'm also, like you, a very pro-yes voter from that perspective. And I think we still need to do a lot more for the First Nations people. There's still a lot more to do to give them their say in the country.
And if you dig into, if you double click on what it is, and as it's one of the conversation we're having right now at ServiceNow, there are 3 sentences being added to the Constitution. 3 sentences under I think it's chapter 9, and it literally says there will be a body called the Voice, where the government may choose to refer matters to them, with no obligation to do anything other than that.
Yeah.
So it is the lowest barrier of entry. Like, it is so low, right?
Yeah.
And so for that to get turned into, and I've got some very close friends, and one of them is going to hear me say this, right? Who talked about how it's going to generate a huge bureaucracy. And I said, a bureaucracy any different to the lobbying bureaucracy that's in place right now, or any of the other bureaucracies that are in place, for good and for bad, right? Bureaucracy is not a bad word. It shouldn't be a bad word. A bureaucracy for the right reasons is a good thing. So will it slow down decision making? Well, again, we have unseen, unheard lobbyists going in right now. What are they doing? We don't even know. So I just wonder about the parity that's being missed. But ultimately, what is being lost? If it is about fear, what are you going to lose? If you can articulate to me what you're going to lose in this process, hats off to you, right? But no one can actually talk about what's going to be lost for them. They don't. Nothing gets taken away from them. So all the arguments are very much naysayers. And no is such an easy opt. If you don't understand, just say no.
Yeah.
My retort to that is, if you don't understand and you don't want to take the time to understand, vote yes. Because there is no impact on this to anybody other than giving a platform, if you like, for our First Nations peoples. It's crazy. So I think going back to your other question about racism and you're not experiencing it, I've got to be honest, brother. There's racism everywhere. You and I were fortunate, and I'll tell you why we're fortunate.
Sure, I agree.
We are chameleons. We are assimilators. We know how, because that's our natural MO, right? Now, a few things I learned growing up in England as a young lad, and I used to have a very fiery temper, right? And people were quite afraid of me because I was unpredictably reactionary. And the reason was that it was always racism, and I could never understand racism because, hang on, you're having a crack about something I am as opposed to what I'm doing. But does that make sense to you? And, if you're having a conversation with somebody who doesn't have the processing capacity to be able to process your question, you're wasting your time. You're going to get a punch in the face. So I learned 3 things to handle racism in England, because it always end up in a fight. The first thing I learned was humor. And humor, you can just basically take the pressure out of the situation. Humor is a really good way of removing stigmas, and also it's an amazing way of changing people's state. If you make someone laugh, it's really hard. They're going to be a diehard, bigot to actually stay angry, right? After you made them laugh.
Sure.
So humor was my first tool. My second tool was fighting. I became a pretty good fighter, right? So it's stupid. But the third thing which I learned, because it was never a fair fight, it was never one-on-one. It was never, the third thing I learned was how to run pretty fast, right? So for me, those three methods I brought. And when I came to Australia, I didn't have to employ any of those other. Sorry, I only employ one of them, which was humor. And in Australia, this, we've got a real humor streak and everything, right? We don't take anything seriously. Right?
Yeah.
So I love that. And so you learn how to use that.
Yes.
Because I think it's a good neutralizer. But then you've got to help people back on a journey towards. So that to me is about being a good teacher, a good coach, a good quasi-psychologist, right? These are all good traits for good leadership. You can't be a good leader until you have some of those tools in your tool shed, in your toolbox. And you can't just have the tools in your toolbox without actually practicing them. The way to become innovative is to get mastery first. Once you've got mastery as a corpus of experience, then you can innovate, then you can, pontificate,
Absolutely.
then you can go in different angles, right? I
Absolutely.
often think about, where I've got to. I think of myself as a conversational AI engine, right? I just have a very large language model, and I call that my large experience model.
Yeah.
The experience has given me, I think I've shared this phrase with you before, calcified experience is wisdom, right?
Yes.
It's not wisdom. It's just, you just lived longer and you've had more experiences. You don't have to live a long time, but if you've had lots of experiences and you reflect and then get some insights out of it, you drive more and more improved insights, improved responses. So I think of myself as a bit of a, as a analog version of a conversational AI engine. There you go.
I love the parallel that you have drawn. It's we're all thinking in AI terms now, so I love the parallel that you've drawn, and I would agree to that, having known you for 2 years now. Just quickly on that, on the Australian humor part, because we've been talking about intense stuff, but since I've come to India last year, I gotta tell you, one thing that I've really missed, apart from the Australian beaches, is the Australian humor. I think Australian humor is so unique, and you got to really live in Australia, be part of the Australian culture to understand that, because we love to take the piss out of everything. We're not serious about much, and it's just so fun. Sometimes it gets misconstrued by people who come to Australia. They're like, it's pretty rude and all, but that's just Australian humor, and we don't take things seriously. So I really miss that. Talking about Australian humor, great journey that you've had. There would have been struggles, which you have alluded to as well. Tell me some of the fun, wild stories of the high-pressure days of working in global tech sales.
So I mentioned to you that I've worked with 3 brands, really. Another one early in my career. 3 tech, sorry. I've worked with 3 tech brands. So the first one was IBM, a little startup that has been around for a little while. I'd worked with them for 15 years, and then Salesforce for almost 10 years, 9.5 years, and now ServiceNow. Probably the wildest story I'll tell you about was, when I joined IBM, I was recruited and employed by an amazing human being who I'll still call him, part of my friendship group, a guy called Mitchell Young. Shout out to Mitch, who's he's the president of APAC for ServiceNow. And he brought me on. I was literally, I think I would have been 3 years into my sales career. I got into sales late in my life, and then realized, oh my God, this job and me is just like, it was like a glove, right? Like a glove for me. And he brought me on. He said, "Oh, okay, need you to sell this solution called Tivoli." I was like, "Okay, what is it?" And he goes, "Oh, it's what's called systems management." And I said, "Okay, what's that?" Now, just the job prior to that, I was selling video conferencing, audio conferencing, and a thing called Lotus Notes development.
Oh yeah, this was in IBM.
This is pre-IBM, that was. And then I joined IBM with an acquisition called Tivoli. And Tivoli was the beginning of what was being created called the IBM Software Group. So I joined the software group. And the software group, I don't know if you've heard of salespeople, but there's one specific category of salespeople who are absolute cowboys. And it used to be, or cowgirls or cow people. And it used to be the software people.
Sure.
Why? Because these buggers knew that the gross profit on software after the first version was created was almost 90%.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
So it's like the only thing better GP than software is IP, right? Because it's yours.
It's yours.
It might cost you a lot of sweat equity or some costs, but once you've created it, it's exponential, revenue, right?
Yeah.
Software's like that. You put in $10 million, you create this product, you push it through a massive distribution model that someone like an IBM's got, or back in the day, Computer Associates or BMC, all these other companies that a lot of them have gone now, and they've got the best sales force in the business, right? And we were getting salespeople from all sorts of industries. So we literally I joined the creme de la creme, right?
Yeah.
Did I feel out of place? Absolutely, right? I've always felt a level of imposter syndrome, right? No two ways about it.
Everybody, I think, goes through that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, part of it, I'm sure, is part of the upbringing and all that stuff, and different geographies and different cultural anomalies. But joining, and Mitch was by far, I'd say he's probably he'll be in the top 3 best leaders I've ever worked for.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
And he just brought me on and he just let me be me. Now, talking about crazy times, right? This was the days when we were hitting like 150, 160% of our targets routinely. And I don't know if you understand about sales commissions, but when you're hitting 100%, you're getting your full on targets earnings. When you go above 100%, you typically get accelerators, and you can earn basically life-changing money, right?
Yes.
So from about, whatever it was, 96 to 2013, I left IBM. But the software group part was from 96 to about 2004, I think. I was in a software group. And the craziest thing I ever did was I literally landed, I started the job, and Mitch goes, "Okay, fill out these forms and get your Amex card and get all the stuff. And I need you on a plane to Nashville, Tennessee next week." And
Sure.
I said, sure. And he goes, "You have a passport, haven't you?" I said, "You've got a passport." And he goes, "No, I need you to go to Nashville, Tennessee." I said, "What the hell for?" And he goes, "Oh, we've got this thing called Planet Tivoli." What is it? It's basically like a user conference, right? Where everyone comes together globally.
Sure. Yeah.
It was one of the craziest events. And he goes, "Okay, you need to host these customers, these individuals." Firstly, I had an absolute amazing time.
Yeah.
Nashville, Tennessee is still one of my favorite places.
Which year was this?
But this would have been 90, I'm going to say 98.
Got it. 98.
It was insane. It was insane. And but the point I'm making is like, it would have been 96. 97. No, 98. And the irony was that literally, here I was the job before that which was at 98. I was in Melbourne running around selling to enterprise. So I started off selling low end, but I didn't know what my limit was. And I remember my MD at the time of that small startup company said to me, he goes, "You're the most like naturally gifted salesperson I've come across." I said,
Sure.
"Oh, really? What is it? Well, what do you put it down to?" And he goes, "Well, you just, you're tenacious. And I've gone, well, okay, cool." And it didn't even occur to me what I was doing. You know what I was doing? I was going, hey, Shiv, have you got some time? I think there's some stuff I want to talk to you about, which might be of value to you because I read this article, which, you wrote or you were part of, and it said, one of the biggest challenges that, your organization's facing right now is, customer churn. And we've come up with this application on Lotus Notes, which helps you actually measure customer satisfaction. And I think it could really help your business. And it would literally, and back in the day, it was all like email, right? And every single time, now when I think about it, it was the whole pipeline concept, right? Put lots of stuff at the top of the pipe, right? As much as you can, work each one of them as hard as you can, and sure enough, a percentage of them will get qualified. And the biggest one I remember, before I go back to the Nashville story and the crazy times, was this company called BHP. Remember, have you heard of them?
Yes, of course, BHP.
This little resource company.
Little.
Got on the phone to this guy. Actually, it might be pre-email even. Got on the phone to a guy called Matt. I won't give his last name. Matt, shout out to you. You know who you are. I still ride with him, by the way. I still cycle with him. That's the other thing. Relationships are really important.
Yes.
So rang Matt, said, hey, hi, Matt. My name is Clyde Fernandez. I work for this company, blah, blah, blah. And I understand, you're in the market for some video conferencing equipment and you got a tender out. I understand we didn't respond to it, but I want to tell you that, if you don't include us, you're going to miss out on some serious competitive pressure that you can apply to the other respondents. And he goes, what? I said, well, you've gone to these two other organizations and they really don't have any competition. They are, I would almost hazard a guess, they're probably colluding with each other, almost like, a bit like some organizations which are working within a protected industry. I won't use any names. And then they just, bounce off and say, we don't want to compete with you directly because there's enough of the pie for us to share, right? And he goes, what makes you think your response will be more attractive? I said, not only will it be more attractive, it'll be more cost effective, not only on your cost of purchase, but also in your total cost of ownership. Now, I'd learned all this stuff on the job, right? I haven't done financial accounting or anything. And he goes, I have half an hour in half an hour. I said, okay, I'm there. And he goes, do you want to check your diary? I said, my diary in front of me. I've just scratched out everything in there. I'm coming to see you, right?
Amazing.
We took him, we went for lunch. Supposed to be a half-hour sandwich, ended up being 3 hours. Like when you're doing that, and all of a sudden you're connected, and you're connecting as humans, and you're connecting as people, and you're finishing your other sentences. Guess what? I was telling him stuff, and I remember I said this to him, and he said to me, it's interesting what you did. I said, what? And he said, you've talked about issues, problem statement, that I haven't even talked about yet, that I haven't shared as part of the RFP. I said, he goes, how did you know I've got those issues? I said, well, I didn't, but I would imagine, because I've done, I've been a manager by then and all that, I would imagine these are some of the challenges. He goes, cool. So it's not just about buying this thing called a video conferencing. And by the way, these things were all the whole conference room had to be set up with them. Had to be bespoke implementations. Each unit cost $150,000 back in 96. So a big unit. So, and they were point to point.
Yes.
If you want to do multi-point, you have to buy another unit, which is another $500,000, right?
Wow.
Called a multi-point connection unit. Anyway.
Wow.
So he's going, so why are you saying that? I said, because technology is just technology. It's just allows you. It's the service you wrap around it that makes it really work and hum. He said, what service? I said, true. You need a booking service. You need customer service around it to make sure that people coming in, it's new technology to them. You need to make it really easy for them to use it. If the technology gets in the way of them collaborating, they will throw it out and you out with it. Right?
Absolutely.
And he goes, yeah. So converted a deal like within nanoseconds. Anyway, fast forward 2 years, I'm in Nashville, Tennessee with IBM. I'm thinking, wow. And IBM was the pinnacle at that point. Like if you could get to IBM, you made it.
That was pinnacle. Absolutely.
I remember saying to my wife, I said, I think this is it. I think we've got to our nirvana. And it was the most amazing every amazing job I've had a couple of aspects to it. One was amazing leadership, or my leader. You know, they say, you know, you join a company, you leave a leader. You've heard that saying?
Yes.
So you need to make sure that you always have good leaders, and you do have control over that, right? That's what. So I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm having this out of body experience, right? I'm there hosting all these people who I don't even know, but they're having the time of their life. I'm now like this movie star, where I'm taking them to different parties, and I've seen a whole different version of selling, right? Where you take your customers, you give them great experiences, you help them develop intimate relationships, trusted intimate relationships, which they respect. Then when you go back and start talking about what are their needs, guess what? The kimono is open, absolutely open, right? And it's basically, come in, talk to me about what you think you can help me with. You know, I remember another became a good friend of mine, a CIO of a regional bank. Every year we sit down and he'd just go, oh, this is my budget. This is where my priorities are. What do you think you can help me with? And I'd go through and he goes, oh, what about this? Surely this product can help me with that. And I remember one time I said to him, I said, no, you need to go and see CA and get their solution. And he goes, you're asking me to go to your competitor? And I said, no, I'm partnering with you.
Yeah,
I'm adhering to our trusted relationship. You know, I'm honoring our relationship. I don't want to give you anything, sell you anything, which is going to be suboptimal. I said, don't get me wrong. At some point we may get to that level, but right now, given it's a bespoke use case, go and get CA's tour. I can't even remember what it was about, but he was grateful for that, and it actually, that's about the how.
Absolutely.
What I did was always pretty much always overachieve, but how you do it is by collaborating, getting people on the journey with you, and getting everyone across the line, right?
Yes.
Because selling is not a solo sport. Selling is a team sport. And the thing I recognize now, the most important person is the least important person in other people's minds. What do I mean by that? One of the things, I'm a pretty simple guy. So when I do strategy, account strategy, for example, I think about 3 layers. The first layer is what are the mega trends happening within the globe?
Yes.
And then within the industry, right? Then what is this organization's strategic priorities? And how do we link to them? And then what is our coverage map? Who do we need to get to? And who's going to be accountable for those relationships? One day I'm doing this work for a large bank in Australia, and I had a team of about 20 people in the room, probably more actually, and we're getting to the coverage plan, the context coverage plan, and we're going through it. And I produced a spreadsheet of all the contacts, what their roles were, and I said nominate. I said, but if you nominate, you're going to be accountable for improving that relationship, and I'll reserve the right to remove you if you don't progress it.
Yes.
Now, there's one category which was ignored all the way through the session. I knew it would happen, and it was a category called the EAs and PAs, right? All the executive assistants and the personal assistants. And I said, okay, so no one wants this category. What for? I said, okay, I'll take them. They went, no, you're the most senior people, person, you should have the most. I said, no, I want to share that top line. And all due respects, guys, we're not going to get to them. We haven't earned the right yet. So let's focus, forget about the CEO and the group exec, forget about the board, forget about the CEO, forget about the group exec. Let's focus on EGM, GM level. And then I took all the EAs and PAs, and I took a couple of the different EGMs, right? What happens?
Let me guess. You nailed it.
Yeah, because what happens is who gives access to all those individuals?
Absolutely. It's the EA.
I remember, I used to work for a bank in Melbourne many years ago, and I remember talking about relationships and connections with everybody. And you've got to do it authentically. You've got to be real. You've got to be honest. And you've got to be true. And you've got to treat everybody like you want to be treated. And I remember I'd always connect with the receptionist and the EAs, PAs, and the other person back in the day was the guy in the garage, right? The guy who would be in the car park. So this was a pretty big bank in Australia and I got to know the guy who was at the executive car park or the building's car park. The only people that parked there were the executives. I used to work in another office. I would ring him on the way in. Back in the day when you used to have a bat phone in your car, the big friggin' thing. I'd ring him. I'd say, hey, blah, I'm coming in. And he goes, how much time do you need? And I said, 25 minutes. No problem. Come on in. And he parked me, right? One day, and this is when I was going for the job at my first sales job, I rang him and he said, hey, how much time do you need? I said, I need about 3 hours. No, I didn't even call him. I just turned up. I need about 3 hours. And he goes, park in the boss's spot. I said, what? The CEO spot. And he goes, yeah, I know where he is. He's out of town. Park there.
Sure.
Leave me the keys. What did all that teach me? Doesn't take anything. Doesn't take anything to be kind, to be nice, to be respectful to people.
Sure.
The bonus may not be in them giving you unfair access to things, but the bonus is actually you just developing your ability to connect with people.
Absolutely.
No matter where they are.
Absolutely.
And what it does is, though, it spawns a lot of rewards. And I think back, having great leaders, learning lots, being lucky, right? I feel very lucky that I've had opportunities. There's always been somebody that, even when I've gotten myself into trouble, and I've got myself in a lot of trouble during my career, somebody will grab me and say, hey, I'll come with me. I'm going to protect you. Come over here. Now, why would that be? Well, probably because I made more positive relationships, trusted relationships than suboptimal ones. Did I make some suboptimal ones? Yeah. Am I a human being? Yes. Did I make some bad decisions? Yeah. Would I, if I had my time over again, what would I do? I would do things slower, with more empathy, more meaning, more connection. That's what I'd do. I know I'd get to the result anyway, but the how would become a lot more important.
Yeah.
Going back to your question. So Nashville, Tennessee was crazy. The craziest thing that's ever happened to me as a salesperson was again at IBM 2 years later. So Tivoli was an acquisition. And then 2 years into my job at IBM, as they always do, they want to make the acquisition IBMized. So they said to the CEO of that company, who's really who we used to report through to, okay, this is your last hurrah, basically. And I think he was saying, I'm resigning. I want to do a last hurrah. I said, yeah, sure. You're the president of that. You can do whatever you like. Yeah. He hires an ocean liner, right? A 2,700 berth ocean liner, 900 crew, 900 of us, and 900 of our partners. So 2,700 people in this boat.
Wow!
We flew business class from Australia to LA to Fort Lauderdale, I think. Oh no, to Miami, Florida. Then we took I don't know how we got from there to Fort Lauderdale. Fort Lauderdale on this ocean liner. Spent my wife and I, like, we were still at that point where we hadn't got to the point where we weren't thinking about money, put it that way, right? So we're still pretty frugal about everything.
Yeah.
Not through method, but through necessity. Right?
Got.
We get on this. We stayed at Madonna. There's a hotel called Madonna's Hotel in South Beach, Miami. Fantastic. We just feel like we're rock stars, right? We get to this ocean liner. It looks like a floating, one of these big shopping malls, right? You walk in, or like a Crown Casino on a ship. And we walked in and we're all looking around. And there's four partners, four couples there. And we walk in. We've got put our stuff in the cabin and walked into this welcoming reception. And we're looking around going, holy crap, this is ostentatious at the top, right? The waitress comes over, says, can we get you some drinks? And we go, oh yeah, we'll just have, water, juice, because we're thinking this looks really expensive, right?
Yeah.
And she goes, oh, whose card should we put it on? We said, oh no, we're going to pay separately. And she goes, hey, no, we don't need there's no payment. Everything's paid for on the ship.
Yeah.
We said, pardon? He said, everything's paid for on the ship. Or entertainment, you can go to cabarets, you can do whatever you like, you can go to the casino, whatever's happening on this ship, whatever you want to eat, drink, it's covered. We said, okay, hold those juices. We'll have 8 daiquiris, please. Right? And it was like drunken debauchery for about, I think it was like 6 or 7 nights. And we ended up going,
Wow.
I think we went to Mexico, and we're just cruising around the Caribbean, having an amazing time. That was probably the most like out of body experience I've ever had.
Sure.
That was very much was the crazy, it was close to the turn of the century. Then the noughties were crazy again. That's when they cranked it up again, where we end up in Vegas every year for kickoff.
Really?
But you know what they say about Vegas?
What
happens in Vegas
stays in Vegas.
Stays in Vegas, right? I mean,
Sure.
it was supposed to be a sales kickoff, and it was some full on business, but it was also hard socializing. And I think my 3rd year going there, I think I gave up alcohol for about a year after that, because I remember on the 4th night, having had about 7 hours sleep over 4 nights, I had woken up from about an hour and a half sleep, had to go straight into the conference, and I woke up and I felt crystal clear after having drank far too much, my body weight probably, and I thought something's wrong. I can't be this clear. And I remember it spooked me a lot, right? So crazy, but also in one way instructive, right?
Sure.
Clyde, you've hit your limit. So some crazy times. But that the noughties gave Bridget and I, finally allowed us to exhale. That was when we finally got into some good money, got rid of some debt, or retired some debt, bad debt as opposed to good debt, and got ourselves in a position where we were no longer, we positioned ourselves so we were no longer 2 paychecks away from being bankrupt. And to this day, there are still so many people who are living that way, right?
Yes.
And it's not a good way to live. I know some people don't have a choice, but cognitively and at a physiological, at a soul level, it's not good.
Right.
It's unhealthy, and we should all think about how do we change up so we're not actually trying to pursue these dreams unnecessarily.
Look, thanks for sharing that crazy story. I can't imagine. I've heard from senior tech sales individuals that the 90s was a great era to be in for software sales or tech sales. IBM was a mecca at that time. Just quickly on one of the points that one of your senior leaders told you, that just be yourself. I want to use that moment to say something what Bill Gates said to Satya Nadella when he was hired to be the CEO. And Satya Nadella asked Bill Gates that, you leave a big legacy, you and Steve Ballmer leave a big legacy, like how am I be able to do this job and all? And Bill Gates told Satya that you do you. Now you're the leader, you just do you. And giving that comfort coming from Bill Gates to Satya gave him the confidence and the freedom, most importantly, to run Microsoft the way that he needs to run, as opposed to continuing on the legacy. And we know now how transformational Satya led Microsoft. So I think great leaders give the freedom to other people that, hey, lead the way that you need to. So I just thought of sharing that story that I heard about Satya as well.
Yeah, I think it's empowering, right? So if you give people license to be themselves,
yes,
obviously there's guardrails in there, because what you think about is, I mean, you will experience this at some stage, I'm sure, around parenting. Parenting is all around allowing your children to experience good, bad, whatever the emotion is, their way.
Yeah.
Allowing them to be themselves. Obviously providing them some guardrails to make sure that they know you're there. But the idea is to keep letting go, keep expanding the boundaries on what they think is their boundaries. And ultimately where you just drop the boundaries altogether, so you can roam wherever you like. And you should have confidence, because look at all the experience you've had and what you've achieved. So I think someone giving you license to be you.
Yes.
Funny enough, my second son, who's staying, we're having a weekend away in Sydney this weekend, uses that term all the time. He often says when he feels like someone's trying to railroad him into doing something, or feeling like they want to do what he wants to do, he says, look, you just be you. You be you. You do. In fact, you do you. We used to say you be you, because you be you is Ubu, which is a name that we named one of our dogs, right?
Sure.
And so I think giving license like that from someone who has been on that journey before, so you can look at them and go, wow, no one really gives throwaway lines. I'm talking from a leadership point of view. They're typically it's grounded in a lot of experience.
Yes.
So that wisdom, when it's given to you, if you are in a position where you're asking somebody who's got whatever, whether it's an advantage in life or experience or tenure, whatever it is, and you ask them for some guidance or some coaching, listen and incorporate it into your next action, whatever that might be. So if someone says to you, be you, that is such a great license to go, oh, okay, I've
Absolutely.
arrived, I can do this.
Absolutely.
So I think that's powerful.
Yeah, totally agree. Now, we've had conversations about this, and one of the things that I really admire about you is that your focus on mentoring and your focus on leadership as well. And I know that you've got your own definition of your unique leadership style, which are the 3 C's: climate, clarity, and coaching. Can you break it down for me again? And through that, some of my students and listeners also get exposed to your leadership style, which are the 3 C's.
Sure. So this is, I love threes, and my people who know me know that I use them all the time, primarily because it's brain technology. It's easy to remember. So the 3 C's go along. And this has been an evolution over many years, but the 3 C's, you mentioned climate, clarity, and coaching. What do I mean by climate? Climate comes from the notion of psychological safety. How do you create an environment which is safe? Now, what does that mean? I take a lot of my knowledge and evidence-based experience from a lady called Amy Edmondson, who wrote a book called The Fearless Organization. And the Fearless Organization talks about creating psychological safety within a company, within an organization. I contrast that to other books like Lean In or Be Brave. That puts the impulse on the individual. And I often thought about, and you and I could probably relate to this, when you're already the victim or the marginalized or the minority, and then you say, hey, step up, be bigger, be louder, be stronger. You go, I can't, right? Why don't you lower the barrier of entry so that I can just step over the barrier, rather than making the barrier so high and so difficult to get in? So Amy talks about the 4 layers of psychological safety, and I think these are very important. And one of them harks back to that story I told you about the playground.
Yes.
The first layer of psychological safety is called inclusion safety. How do you create an environment where people genuinely feel included? New, old, indifferent. How do they feel genuinely included? That is that example I used, that story I used about the playground, where when Clyde walks up to Shiv and Shiv's playing with his friends, and Clyde says, "Can I play?" Inclusion safety, there's only one answer, and that is yes.
Yes.
Exclusionary behavior, and there's a whole range of it, right? One of them is, yes, but can you wait until we finish the game? Yes, but I'll have to teach you the rules first. Yes, when somebody else leaves the game. Yes, when you speak the way we speak. Yes, when you go home and dress the way we dress. Yes, when you come back looking like us. They're all exclusionary behaviors.
Absolutely.
That's what I say about the barrier of entry, right? So the idea is make inclusion table stakes. When someone comes in, no matter what the story, what the question is, you make them feel so good that they can ask to be included in your group, right? Or in fact, get to a point where they don't need to ask. They just join, because it is self-evident that you're creating this environment which is open, empowering, and inclusive. That's the first layer. If you think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we're going to go up the value chain. So inclusion safety is the first level of psychological safety. The next one is what's called learner safety. Think of it back at school. You're a smart guy. I know it, right? And I know it in class when you were a very young kid. At some point, you put your hand up to ask a question.
Yes.
Or to answer a question. And you either asked a question which was incongruent with the teaching path that was the teacher was on, or you answered the question incorrectly or without enough nuance. And there's a time when the teacher, the person in authority, the person you respected, made you feel little. Asked you, put your hand down. That's a wrong answer. Or why are you asking that question now? We're not talking about that. To make you feel lesser.
Yeah.
Now, learner safety is every question at any time.
Absolutely.
Is the right question, right? And as the teacher or the coach or whatever the lexicon you want to use does is that's a really interesting question. Tell me more. If it's incongruent with what you're talking about, that's interesting, Shiv, that you raise that right now. What made you think about asking that question right now? That's learner safety, where you create an environment where everyone feels safe to learn.
Yes.
Now, to learn, guess what you got to do? You got to fail a little bit.
Yeah, true.
Remember riding a bike?
Yeah,
right.
I didn't get it right from the start. Yeah.
Remember, what's the hardest thing you ever learned? I don't know if you probably can't remember this. I'll tell you what it is.
Yeah, I can't remember that. That's the hardest thing that I've learned. I can't remember it.
I'll tell you what it probably was. It was learning to walk.
Yeah,
that's why you can't remember it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Now, if you think about the physiology that you go through to learn to walk.
Yeah.
You've got none of the ability to do it. Why do you keep trying? What's the reason you keep trying? A couple of reasons. One is you see other people that you know, you love, you trust, you need doing it. So therefore you know, so it's possible. The second thing is encouragement. Your daddy or your mummy or your nana or your papa says, come Shiv, come, stand up, right? That encouragement is what gives you the courage to get off your tush every time you fall down. That level of learning from moving on, not even moving initially, to rocking, getting onto your front, rocking backwards and forwards, getting onto your all fours, being able to crawl, then being able to stand up, holding onto something, and then all of a sudden, what's that about? That is what we've got to do, right? We've got to create enough safety that people can start to walk, but we also got to create enough safe environments where they build the capacity to be able to walk, or run, right? Think about the moth in the cocoon, right? The moth's in the cocoon and it's pushing the cocoon, right? Trying to break the cocoon open. And the poor cat's watching and saying, this poor moth, I'll help it. Rips the cocoon open, go on out. Cat goes off, come back the next day. The moth's dead.
Yeah.
Why is the moth dead? The moth's dead is because the moth develops its muscle, its strength to be able to fly by pushing that cocoon, by breaking through the cocoon. It's part of its physiology to improve its strength to be able to, once it's out of the cocoon, it's built enough strength to be able to flap its wings.
Yeah.
If you open up the cocoon to, and don't allow it to struggle, it will die.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a good metaphor for a lot of the things that you do in learning, right? So that's the second layer, learner safety. The third layer is what's called contribution safety. Create an environment where everybody in your team feels safe and comfortable to contribute to the good work that the entire team does, even if it's out of their swim lane. And by the way, I don't like the notion of swim lanes. I like the notion of, hey, swim, right? Just don't swim into people. And if someone's slower than you, then, maybe you need to move lanes, right?
Yeah.
Someone's faster than you and they're coming up behind you, then maybe you need to move out of their way a little bit.
Yeah.
That's the reason why you have swim lanes. But ultimately, I don't like the notion of that, other than, it does give you, for a performance point of view, your area your lane to go in. So contribution safety for me is all about creating an environment where everybody feels they can contribute. Why is that important? Because when you're working in a team environment, and I said to you before, to me, selling is a team sport.
Yes.
Even if you're an individual rep with an individual product without any support, you still need help to get that sale across the line. And you still need teamwork attributes to be able to achieve that. So soft skills are the hard skills, right? And the final one, which is the one I love, is what's called challenger safety. That's the high order, right? What is challenger safety? Challenger safety is creating an environment where I actively encourage people to challenge who? Challenge status quo, challenge the leader.
Yeah, challenge
the perceived, challenge the prevailing wisdom. It's just prevailing until it's changed. So creating an environment where you can have a contest of ideas, you can disagree, and making sure you do it in a non-disagreeable way. So disagree on the idea without being disagreeable.
Yes.
So that's the whole construct of great climate. If you create a good climate, people feel safe to learn, people feel safe to be part of it, people feel safe to learn, people feel safe to contribute, whatever that contribution means in their context, and then people feel safe to challenge whatever's happening so we can become better.
Yeah.
That's climate. First C. The second C, I use the word clarity. It's about helping the individuals, anybody, by being very clear with what the ask is. You and I both know that today's inbox, whether it's virtual or real, is inundated, right? You're never going to get through it. Yeah?
Sure.
Lots of noise. So as a leader, whether you're a leader of yourself or you're a leader of other people, one of the primary roles you want to do is make sure you determine what north looks like. Otherwise, you could be off, you go 1 degree off when you start off, you can be right in the wrong area. So to do that, you've got to work out what are the most important things to do. So clarity is about providing, first of all, you've got to create clarity of thinking in yourself.
In
as
yourself,
a leader. Yeah. So that you can then be clear with your team, with your group, to focus on the right things. How do you do that? Literally, you should become a sieve for all the different data points coming in. Leadership is about, absorbing all of that large language model, all of that experience, reflecting on it and extracting insights out of it. And as you extract the insights out of it, work out, stack rank them, what's the most important thing for your team to focus on right now. And you give it to them in a very concrete way. Why is that important? Well, feedback requires clarity. And really what leadership is for me, one big tenet of it is coaching, right? That's, probably the third C. And so in my head, if you're not clear, then the coaching's on you. You got to improve your clarity. Clarity is also about not being verbose. And you mentioned it before, about, actually it wasn't you, as a previous person I was speaking to, talking about, I was asking him his the recipe for his success. And he's talking about, converting complexity and providing clarity.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about, right? If you think about the world we live in right now, and there's a term for it, right? Called VUCA. You've heard about that?
I haven't heard of it.
It's
What is that?
It's an acronym. VUCA. Volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, right?
Yes.
It's the world we live in now. It's the unstable world, right?
Yes. Yeah.
When you have volatility as a leader or as a leader of yourself or others, you've got to convert that volatility into vision. When you have uncertainty, you've got to provide understanding. When you have complexity, you've got to provide clarity. When you have ambiguity, you've got to improve your people and yourselves and adaptability. The antidote to VUCA is being highly adaptable. The on-ramp to adaptability is learning.
Amazing.
And if people say to me, what should you learn? I said, yes. Yes, what? Yes, you should learn. Learn everything, right? Whatever you are inclined to learn.
Yeah.
But really learn it.
Yes.
If you want to learn meditation, learn meditation. Become one with the meditation. How do you do that? Practice makes permanent, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Disciplined practice provides precision. A bit like, let's practice tennis. Okay. Run, hit, forehand, backhand, overhead, serve. Precision, disciplined practices, I need to improve my backhand. Guess what I'm going to do? Backhand practice.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So precision is really important, and working out what you want to do. So the world we live in right now needs us leaders to become better leaders to help our people be anti-fragile.
Yes.
What does that mean? It means so that when a system error occurs, the system doesn't collapse. When you're faced with something you've never faced with before, you don't collapse. You say, what else do I have in my disciplines, in my muscle capacity to adapt to this situation? I've never had this situation before, so what is it about the situation? What can I extract from the situation? Now, what is it within my corpus of experience, the disciplines I've practiced? What can I bring to this? Think about cooking. I love cooking Indian food, right? For me, it's simple, really easy. and I can cook Thai food, and I can cook other foods as well. But Indian food's my number one, right?
Sure.
So because I've got a experience cooking Indian food, someone gives me a new Indian recipe, guess how much of a lift it is for me? It can be totally daunting when I read it, but it's not a huge lift because I know I've got it in me that I know what to do, right? I've got all the disciplines about preparing, onions and garlic and chili and the spices for spice mix. I know what the spices are. So I've got competence in the base material, the base theories. Now we're just trying to innovate. Now we're trying to pivot into a new recipe. Can it be daunting? Yep. But because I've experienced modifying and moderating and pivoting and innovating, then I know I can do it. Same in every other discipline, So I like the idea of being faced in a whole new situation. In fact, and my team, who, if any of them listening right now, one of the things I want to do is put us all into an improv class. You heard of improv?
Yes, I have.
Theater groups. Yeah. So I want to take us all through an improv class. Why? Because I want us to feel uncomfortable, but feel comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yes.
It's okay to be uncomfortable.
Okay.
It's better to be accepting of it and then go, okay, how do I do it? How do I control my breathing? How do I control my breathing so I can control my heart, so I can control my voice? When I do those three things, guess what my brain's doing? It's no longer going to the limbic, to the brain stem or the limbic system. It's actually going, stay on logos. Don't go to fight, flight, or freeze. Stay where you are. It's okay. No one's going to kill you. You've got this.
Yeah.
Think yourself through. Think your way through this. Right?
Yeah.
So for those reasons, I think providing clarity in this new world, super important. And I think it's on leaders to do it. The third one is coaching. And what I mean by coaching, literally, what coaching is all about.
Yes.
Have you heard about the drama triangle?
No, I haven't. Please. Yeah.
So the drama triangle, if I draw a triangle upside down with the base on top, you've got probably victim at the bottom, rescuer, persecutor, right?
Got you.
That's the drama triangle. They're the three roles which are in the drama triangle. If you flip it up the other way, you change. And by the way, rescuer. Why isn't rescuer a good thing? Well, rescuer actually, especially in business and life parlance, it's more about ego of the rescuer than actually rescuing somebody, right? Because when you rescue someone, guess what? Who's the hero in the rescuer? The rescuer, right?
Rescuer.
The person who rescues is the hero, right? You want to make the person that you are coaching
the hero
in their story.
Sure.
If I give a fish, the old parable about give a fish, you feed the person for a day, teach him the fish, you teach him how to feed for a life.
Yes.
So move from rescuer to coach, right? And then move from persecutor to challenger. I think that's they're the main two things I want to talk about.
Yeah.
And when I looked at that whole drama triangle, I went, yeah, I like rescuing. You know why? I get to wear the cape. I get to be the superhero. It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable from a bandwidth point of view. It's not sustainable from the growth of that individual that you're trying to support.
Agreed.
So feedback's got to be genuine, and it's got to be about making them the hero. The way you make them the hero is you provide psychological safety, you provide clarity about what we're talking about, you agree on some KPIs and on some empirical third-party evidentiary measurable ways we can test whether the hypothesis we've come up with is actually working. And then you close the loop and you come back again. Yeah. You come back again into a psychologically safe environment where the person can genuinely say, you're coaching me. Hey, Shiv, I know we agreed that I was going to do all these three things. I'm really sorry I didn't do them. So I'm sorry I wasted your time. I'm sorry that, I didn't try it. These are the reasons why I didn't do it.
Yeah. As
opposed to think about old days, I come into the mentor. Yes, boss, got it all covered and did all these things, right? Yeah. But if there's if there isn't an independent third party arbiter about the lagging indicator, there's no way of testing that. So let's have a third lagging indicator. What I want you to focus on is the leading indicators. Here's the effort you got to put in. Focus on effort, not outcome. The outcome will happen naturally as a result of your efforts. So do that, and then we come back. Have you heard of the Deming loop? PDCA? Plan, do, check, act. Okay, this goes back to Deming, who's the father of continuous improvement.
Got it. Okay.
And the loop it's a coaching loop. Plan, let's agree on the plan. PDCA, plan, do. Go and do what you said you were going to do.
Sure.
Check. Did doing what you said you were going to do achieve the metrics that we thought the plan would achieve?
Yeah.
Then act.
Accelerate
it. Change it. Stop it. Start something new. And it goes around again. So that's the continuous improvement loop, right? And it's been used for almost 100 years now, right?
Wow.
So it was a guy called Deming who introduced it. But it's the same as us, right?
Yeah, true.
And we should be thinking about what are those mechanisms, frameworks, patterns that we've seen in other settings that we can apply now to our settings.
Sure.
The area that I love exploring is the natural world, right? If you think about it from an organism point of view, why is conversational conversational AI going where it's going? Because they've based it all on, a neural network, basically the way we adapt, evolve, and learn.
Yeah.
That's That's organic. So organic. So the stuff we can learn from nature and from, organisms that we can apply to our life. Well, why aren't we learning that? Why aren't we applying? What are they? Well, a lot of them is, cycles. Cycles are important. One of the things I hark on quite a bit is, habits and routines. Someone asked me when I was talking once about the future of work. When I was talking about, the 4-day week and hybrid working and all that. And they said, what's your idea of the best working week? I said, well, I don't know about for anybody else. For me, I'll be following the circadian rhythm, right? And they said, what do you mean by that? Well, I'd want to work 7 days a week.
Huh? Really?
I said,
wow, okay.
I said, because the circadian rhythm is 24 hours.
Yeah.
And I love the routine of 24 hours. I love my first 2 hours in the morning, which is my time, where I invest in me, in my mind, in my body, in my spirit, and with my most important relationship, my partner. Then I go into the work day. Then I get some, connections during that, and then connections with my loved ones. Then go to bed at a reasonable hour, get a good night's sleep, and start all over again. Sounds boring. I know how much better I am when that routine goes. And when I say 7 days a week, what I mean is 3 hours a day. Because what I've worked out is,
got it.
There's a period of time during the day. After I've exercised, after I've meditated, after I've done all my physiologies, if I go to mind then, I'm hugely productive. After about 3 hours, I don't want to do that anymore. I want to go and pick up the phone or the FaceTime with Shiv, or go for a walk with Shiv, or go for a run with Shiv, or meet Shiv for a cup of coffee. I want human connection. Or go and meet lots of people, right? I want to change, yeah? And then there might be a period later on where I might want to do some reflection, right? So I learned some stuff in the morning. Let me reflect on that. Did I leverage that learning during the day? Why did I? Why didn't I? What's interesting about that? How do I incorporate new knowledge into my life? Then start all over again. So for me, that would be my highlight, would be to move from 5 days a week where I'm working, 8 to 10 hours a day, to 7 days a week working about 3 hours a day.
3 hours a day. Got it. Good. It kind of makes sense because when people do 9 to 5, at least a couple of hours goes in, I wouldn't use the word chit-chatting, but just building relationships with your internal staff.
Yep. That is the main, that's the glue.
Yeah.
That's what I said about the soft skills or the hard skills.
Yeah.
I don't work for a technology company. I work for a people company that happens to sell a pretty impressive technology platform.
Yeah.
We do not know how to connect with people. If we do not know how to bring empathy to people's issues, we can keep flogging the features of everything, right? In our platform. They're going to go, cool, but what do you know about my business? What do you know about my pain?
Absolutely.
What do you know about my priority? What do you know about my ambitions?
Yeah.
So I think, as you said, I think that's what you're alluding to, those interactions in the office with your people, hugely beneficial, hugely critical to your success.
Absolutely.
Hybrid working, love it. I would pivot it to, you got to get back to the office for collaboration.
Yes, true.
For connectivity.
Yeah.
For camaraderie.
Yes.
For social license, right? You need to do that. Are we more productive working in our wonderfully, stylized home offices? Sure. It's not sustainable. I can see it. It's like having a leader who is fire and brimstone. Will they get results? Yes. Short term, they'll get results. Long term and short term, they'll get volatility. Right? Long term, they're going to get attrition, they're going to get burnout, they're going to get all sorts of other diseases of the heart, the mind, and the soul because of that behavior.
Sure.
It doesn't hit the balance sheet, but it's going to, as ESG becomes bigger part of the three-legged stool of revenue, profit, and ESG, as that becomes a more solidified third leg, governance, environmental and social matters should become higher and higher on the priority list. I don't want to treat you like a human resource. You're a person.
Yeah.
You're an amazing person. You've got amazing abilities, talents, experiences, and you're going to do amazing things. I want to be an incubator and a conveyor belt for you for a period of time. And I want you to leave me in a much better capacity, much better state than you came into my little phase of life.
Yeah.
Those fire and brimstone leaders, they get good results because fear is a good motivator.
Yeah, for the short term.
But those individuals leave their vortex in a much more disheveled way. I've seen some of the most successful in terms of revenue or in terms of compensation with very, very shallow lives. Okay, they drive a Porsche or a Ferrari or whatever, and if that's what floats their boat, cool. But there's something quite unique about having somebody else to share things with, ups and downs, to counsel you when you're not being your best version, and to cradle you when you haven't been your best version and you just need a bit of TLC. Something very powerful about that. And that's very, it's very natural, but it's also very human. And I think we'll lose that if we go too far on just focusing on the result and not the process.
Got it. I just want to go back on your challenger safety. I thought the framework that you discussed about creating that climate was very profound, and your point about clarity, all the frameworks that you shared was very profound to me and something that I didn't know of as well in detail, although you alluded in our private conversations about the 3 C's at a high level. Just on the challenger safety. Now, I've lived in India as a kid, and then since last year, I've been in India. So I know the Indian culture better now as what I used to know 2-3 years back. I obviously know Australian culture. I've lived my entire adult life there. And then when I did my MBA at NYU, I got exposed to the American way of entrepreneurial culture, working culture over there as well. Making the statement firstly that no culture, like there is a room for improvement in every cultural environment. Having said that, what I did notice about US was that they've got an impeccable challenger safety culture, if I put it in that sense. And that's why you see incredible amounts of innovation. Just the entrepreneurial culture of America is at a whole another level, which I think Australia can't match. And even India at a certain level can't match as well. It's that challenger safety network, if I put it in your framework context. So keeping that in mind, firstly, I would love to get your views, whether you agree to that or not, because I know that you've got, a diverse geographical experience as well in leadership and work as well. But I really want to get your take on that. Let's say if you had the magical power of Iron Man or Thanos from Avengers, and you can snap your fingers and change only one thing about, let's say, the business world, what would that be?
What would that be? The one thing? It would have to go towards this area you're talking about. If I think about where we're heading to, the artisans are going to be the winners in the future of the world, right? And what I mean by that, the creatives. And so why? Because anything routine, complicated but repeatable will be automated, right? So that's the nature of it. So if you're a surgeon, it's a complicated procedure, very complicated. Now, let me use another analogy. If you're a mechanic, if you open up an ICE internal combustion engine, you open up the hood, you look at it as a layperson, and you look at it and you go, holy crap, this is complicated.
Yes.
That's complicated. The good thing about complicated things are they're known. You know the components, you know what they do. If you get enough domain expertise, you can fix complicated things. You can run complicated things. Converse is complex. Complex is like the weather pattern, people's behavior. That's complex.
Yes.
Now, machines can't do that. Only humans can. So I think to future-proof you all the time, because I always think about will the future version of Clyde be happy with what I'm doing right now, right? That's one of my measures. The future version of me is far better than I am today. That's a given, and hopefully the future version of you will be far better than you. What needs to be true for that to happen? Well, you've got to keep expanding your safety net, your comfort zone. You know that saying, there's no growth in the comfort zone, and there's seldom comfort in the growth zone, right? So if we're genuinely going to be growing, and we are, like think about all of our knowledge and our creations and our inventions and our iterations on inventions, that's going to keep going. So creativity becomes a main thing. You said it already. NYU, Silicon Valley. What have they got? They've got basically drop your confirmation bias, drop all your biases, and let's just start from here. Let's get back to atomic level thinking. Let's just start a new thing. I want to create a electric car. I want to make the batteries 1/100th of the cost that they are today. How do we do that? Conventional wisdom is it's not possible. And when you say that, what happens? It's true. It's not. So I would say the one thing I would change is this challenger mindset.
Yes.
Creating cover for candor. What I mean by that is give people license to challenge things, challenge everything. Do it respectfully.
Yes.
You know, I've been challenged respectfully and non-respectfully. It's not nice being challenged in an unrespectful way. But anyway, that's more about me than the other person. But do it respectfully because you want to bring them on a journey. But that will be the biggest thing. Everything else is a pathway to that. So that challenger safety talks about how do we challenge the status quo. The voice is challenging the status quo. We humans, I said it before, we know there are a couple of guarantees in life. One of them is death. One of the things I said to someone a while ago, stop saying you're old. You're just older, but everyone's older. So just stop saying I'm old, right? It's a labeling and a categorization you don't need. None of us need. From the time you're born, you're going to get older. That's a given.
Sure. Yeah.
From the time you're born, one thing that you're guaranteed is you are going to die.
Yeah, true.
Right? We know that. We know that. The other thing we know, other than taxes and all that, the other thing we know is change is constant. There's always going to be change.
Absolutely.
Right? So we know about death and we know about change. What are the things we find really hard to do? Cope with change. And think about death.
Yeah.
Think about death. Like, death's going to happen. So my attitude is, if death's going to happen, what can I do to optimize living?
Yeah.
As opposed to being fearful of death. When the time comes, will I be fearful? Of course I will.
Yeah.
But am I doing everything in my power right now to live the best version of my life as I can? Right now, yes. Tomorrow I want to do better. The day after I want to do better. And so across all of the different, KPIs of my life, if you like, right? My relationship with my loved ones, my impact on my work colleagues, society as a whole. So going back to this notion of change, why is it we find it so hard to change? Because we are taught not to challenge. We are taught don't question.
Yeah.
This is how you do something. It's all you need to learn. No, we've got to teach the whole world how to go, that's interesting, and I want to do the opposite.
Yeah,
That's interesting. I want to know how I can fly. That's interesting. I want to know how I can do X, Y, Z.
absolutely.
We know right now that it's not just about knowledge, right? Because if it was just knowledge, because we've all got access to,
Absolutely.
anybody who's got access to a smartphone or an internet
Absolutely.
browser has got access to the whole corpus of knowledge in the entire history of the world, right? So we've got it.
Sure.
So if it's all you needed was knowledge, then you and I would be billionaires with a six-pack, right?
Yeah,
I don't
true.
have a six-pack. I don't
need
have
a
$1 billion.
six-pack as well.
So,
Yeah.
so my question is, so if it's not knowledge, what is it? Well, it's the application of that knowledge
Yes.
and the continuous application of narrowing knowledge of specific areas. You and I are going to live a good life. Why? Because we're probably not sold on one idea.
Yeah.
Right. So therefore, we're going to live a good life. You may become a billionaire. I can't imagine myself becoming a billionaire. Nor is that part of my MO. Nor is that part of my metrics. Right.
Yeah.
One thing I do know is the more I focus on how to improve myself and how to help others, the richer I get. I don't get it. Right.
I just
So
need
years
to
ago.
say, while Clyde is saying he doesn't want to be a billionaire, and that is true, Clyde, let me just put it, is a very comfortable person. I've seen his apartment in Melbourne, the penthouse apartment. He's a very comfortable guy.
Thank you. Yeah, that was that's part of the spoils, right? Yeah. So I think, mate, helping everybody
Yeah.
become a better change ambassador by challenging the status
Yes.
quo.
Yeah,
That'll be it.
absolutely. I'm with you. I'm glad that we agree on that because, yeah, I think what you said, respectfully challenging people is, according to me, the most important, or at least one of the most important ingredient for the growth of human standards. If we don't challenge, we wouldn't have seen the uplifting of human standards that we've had so far.
And I think just to add something to what you just said, for me, it's focus on the idea that you want to challenge. Don't focus on the person presenting
Yeah.
the idea.
Great
Now,
point.
as the person presenting the idea, if we are not emotionally and psychologically involved, as soon as someone challenges our idea, we think they are challenging us.
Yeah.
So when I say respectfully, what I mean is in different cultures, think about it, right? I mean, I know in India,
Yeah.
my uncle says something. I say, uncle, that's that might be true.
Yeah.
That might be true for you. Would you, are you open to a conversation about examples where that might not be true? Right? It's how you do it, right?
Yeah.
Not
Sure.
about challenging your uncle.
Yeah.
Uncle, you just said this. Can you talk to me about that? Can you share
Yeah.
that with me?
Clyde, look, this was such a insightful conversation. This was great. I learned so much. I think the wisdom that you've got is just so vast, incredible. And I really thank you for taking the time to come on the podcast and just discuss so much about your upbringing, your experiences, and just your theories that you have now that you want to enlighten young people like me and others who would be listening to this podcast to think, and then if it gets along with them, to apply that the world can be a better place, a more productive and better place. So I really thank you for taking out the time to do this with me. Now, I do have to say that this was the end of all the long-form questions that I had, which I had mentioned to you. But now we're going to go to a very playful segment called the rapid fire segment. And
Okay.
this is the rapid fire segment where I'll ask you questions that warrants only 1 to 3 word responses or yes or no responses within 5 or 6 seconds. You can choose to
Got it.
pass some of them, but I think knowing you, I think you'll answer all of them.
Okay. Before we do that, can I just say one thing in response to what you said?
Yeah.
I want to thank all those people in my life who have helped shape me. All those people who I've learned from, who I've had as leaders, and all those people I've led. I want to thank them for tolerating, encouraging, and ultimately supporting me throughout my journey in my life. I could not have got to this point without all of you. Thank you.
That's amazing. I'm pretty sure people who would be listening to this, it would be heartfelt coming from you. I can just see it. I hope all the people that watch this episode when it gets released, who are close to you and who you are giving this thank and tribute to, also get to feel the thanks that you're doing, which I'm sure they would do. So I'm going to open the rapid fire questions round. I know, knowing you as a seasoned leader, this is not something that you would feel pressured about. The rapid fire questions on the Proof of Work podcast.
I'm excited about it. Well, all right, yeah.
Cool. All right. Sydney or Melbourne?
Melbourne.
Got it. I think that was an easy one, considering you're a Melbourne.
Coffee I'm from Sydney originally.
Got it. So Melbourne. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Wine or beer?
Wine.
Work smarter or work harder?
Smarter.
Mac or PC?
Mac.
Favorite book?
Amy Edmondson's Fearless Organization.
That was one of the most transformational books that you read.
Yep.
One thing you can't live without?
My wife.
I love this.
Hopefully she's listening to you can go to an inanimate object, but they're replaceable.
Got it.
My wife's
Let's
not.
stick with that. Quality you value most in others?
Trustworthiness.
Life purpose summarized in one word?
Aaron. Aaron is my eldest son.
Okay.
Aaron lives with a profound disability. He lives with us.
Yeah.
My life purpose is to outlive him.
Yeah. Look, on that note, I think that's very beautiful. Maybe we can we can come sometime in the future and do a podcast where we discussed about, just not just autism specifically, but just around that. I think people need to be aware more about, disabilities in general, and how should families, knowing you, I know that you embrace it and have a very wonderful life, embracing that. But I know that there are a lot of families, especially in countries like India and the subcontinent, where they think of that as soon as there is somebody within the family that has a disability, that their life is over because they are the rescuer or caretaker. So yeah, would love to do a podcast somewhere down in the future where we discuss about that in length.
I'll be absolutely happy to do that. That's an easy one. The other one I'd love for you to do is a series.
Yeah.
On the experiences of people whose roles have been made redundant.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Right?
That's a good one.
And yours truly was, my role was made redundant at Salesforce back on 2nd of February. But you need to allow that time to lapse and then interview people.
Yeah.
So one of my ex-bosses, two of my ex-bosses have now been made redundant from Salesforce. I could line up there's about, I think, 200 people, more out of Australia and New Zealand who were made redundant, 10% of the workforce of all of Salesforce. I think it must be, I don't know how many actually, but I think it was 10 to 14%. A lot of good people, but the experience of how they went through it, what they did, what they didn't do, and I can talk about what I didn't do and how it impacted my behaviors in my next job, right?
Yeah.
For those first 2 months, it was suboptimal, right? So I think that's a really important conversation to have, that,
sure.
Hey, and there's a whole series of thematics around that. Your job was made redundant, not you. Feel the pain, stay with the pain. It is like grief. It is like losing something that you've, become a big part of. As much as you say it's not your identity, it's a big part of your identity. So a lot of very human aspects to that.
Yeah.
And I think I could line up quite a few people, but if you're open to that, I could line up a number of leaders and non-leaders to do it.
Amazing. Yeah, we'll be happy to. Look, thanks again, Clyde. This was wonderful. I really, really enjoyed. 2 hours went by and it didn't even feel like that. So I really thank you for the time again. And I consider myself lucky to have you on the Proof of Work podcast. So thanks a lot.
Pleasure's all mine. And I can't wait for us to catch up in person.
Yes, absolutely. Can't wait to.
So looking forward to that date.
Absolutely.